I would like you to imagine the closest and the most beloved person in your life. They were the closest person in your life. I'm sure all of us had people like that who were very close to us once upon a time. Imagine that person, and then that person also in your life became the most disliked, despised person in your life because of their actions, because of the wrong actions, the oppressions they have done towards you. Also, imagine that you're on the receiving end of the oppression, of the cruelty, which most of us, if not all of us, go through in our lives with our loved ones. And eventually these people, imagine them hurting you so much, and not only hurting you, but hurting people around yourselves. How did you react towards that person? How did you react? Are you still in contact? Did you resist the oppression? Did you resist the cruelty? Did you define what they wanted from you to give in and to give up? You see, all of us go through these critical, painful decisions towards our loved ones. And our mother, Asiya, radiallahu ta'ala anha, alayhi salam, she had a husband, her beloved husband. She loved him for a very long time. Actually, for 40 plus years, they were couples. They were beloved to one another. But when the revelation came to her, she began to resist Fir'aun. She began to resist even though she was on the receiving end. And she knew what Fir'aun can do. Merciless. You know what's happening around the world today? All the dictators, they cannot come close to Fir'aun. No dictators today, doesn't matter how evil they have become, they have claimed to be Rabb. They have not claimed that. His power was so much, even his own military commanders, lieutenants feared him, feared for their lives. He killed so many babies. He killed so many pregnant women. Thousands. But his wife, Asiya alayhi salam, resisted him in every way possible. Even though she knew how ruthless, merciless, how ego-centered this individual was. He was brutal. And his brutalness, his ruthlessness, his brutality manifested on his beloved Asiya radiallahu ta'ala anha wa alayhi salam. My topic today is the power of free will. this gift of free will is the gift that distinguishes us from the rest of the creation, in a sense of we have the choice to believe. We have the choice to enact with that belief, whatever we believe in. We have a choice to be principled. We have a choice to have values. We have a choice to have morals. And we have a choice for us there to be steadfast upon. You see, Asiya, with death being certainty on her from the hand of her husband, not only simply a simple death, but a torturous death. Her hands and arms were tied up, stretched on what? On scorching heat of the sand of Egypt. It was stretched as far as it could be stretched. She was left without water, without food for days. Seen by her husband every day coming and asking her, are you going to believe that I am your Rabb? Are you going to leave the Rabb of Musa and Harun? Every day the arms were stretched. Every day the legs were stretched. These are two people who loved one another. They shared every intimate moment with one another for 40 plus years. But the free will, the power of free will overcame every fear, every brutality, every mercilessness, every ruthlessness. The power of free will, free choice, from the soul, from the heart, from the one who's vulnerable and weak. Upon the receiving end, the person who was on the receiving end, the power of free will came through. She said, no, you are a human being like every other human being. I believe in the Rabb of Musa and Harun. I believe in the Rabb of the heavens and the earth. Rabb of you, Rabb of me, and I am returning to him. Eventually, her legs and arms were stretched until painfully they separated. She starved to death. She was scorched to death, and she was ripped to death. But her place amongst millions and billions of believers upon the surface of the earth and beyond, in the hearts of the angels, she is revered. Her praise is glorified. We take her as the best of the creation upon the surface of the earth amongst the human beings. She's one of the greatest four women ever to exist. It was the power of free will that resisted the most oppressive individual upon the surface of the earth, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave an example as the most tyrannical regime ever to exist. And he was the leader of it. She was a woman. She was an elderly woman by then. She had no power. The men in the army is to fear Fir'aun. The men, the strongest men, is to fear Fir'aun. Rather, they all plunged into the sea with him, fearing that he will kill them. They feared him so much more than the actual sea that will drown them. That's how much fear they had. Asiya, however, feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more, and had hope in him more. She utilized her free will, the gift of her free will, to the maximum. If you do not acknowledge the gift of the free will, you will not utilize the free will to the maximum. Most of us are weak because we choose to be weak. Most of us are vulnerable because we choose to be vulnerable. Most of us give in and give up because we choose to give in and give up. Not because necessarily we are weak and vulnerable, and not because necessarily we don't have other opportunities to strengthen ourselves and mitigate the risks and take full advantage of the means, like Asiya did. Asiya, even though she was a woman, elderly woman, weak, vulnerable, she took the necessary means to resist, to be defiant, and most importantly, not to give in, not to give up on her principles she believes in, on the values she has, and on the beliefs she was steadfast upon. No matter what torture you throw at me, I will be anchored upon these beliefs, upon these principles, upon these values. I'll give you another example. Bad habits, sins. Our previous khutbah by Sheikh Ali Aziz, last khutbah, was drowning in sins. Bad habits, sins. Alhamdulillah, I can say with guarantee no one here killed 100 people, 100 innocent people. In history, we have a person who killed 100 innocent people, rather some of the best people amongst the Muslims. He was one of the greatest assassins, Sallallahu reports of him. He used to literally kill people in cold blood. We know his biography in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim Sallallahu mentions regarding his biography. But the power of free will he utilized. He utilized it to the maximum in the wrong way in the beginning, but eventually in the right way, where he completely flipped his biography. He completely flipped everything of his past on his head. His personality did not change. What changed was his internal choice. Because the same personality was there when he killed the 100 person. He killed a worshipper and he made it into 100. So the personality of killing was still there. What he flipped though is the choice that I am going to stop this bad habit. I am now going to resist it. Find ways to stop it. And he did. He marched forth to change this love for innocent blood. The love for spilling innocent blood and watching it. You can call it psychopath or whatever. But he was able to transform himself from the within. That's the power of free will. He actually became one of the greatest wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amongst the human beings. Allah changed the earth for him. Allah made the earth that was close that he was migrating to than the earth he was migrating from. Allah became so pleased about this individual that he utilized and he is utilizing his free will to the max. Lesson for all of us. Whatever bad habits you have, whatever indulgence you have, You're not utilizing your free will to the max, the good way, the upright way, the moral way, the principled way, the disciplined way. I'll give you another example. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and before him Ibrahim alayhi salam. They were the greatest creation, not only greatest human beings, they were the greatest creation. Yet look at the command Allah gives. Dhul Hijjah is coming to Ibrahim after he had a son 80 plus years after, who was beloved. Especially those of you who have children, we know how much love, biological love we have for our children. But imagine if you were the purest of the pure, if you were the highest in morality, if you were the best and of the best, if you had no sins, your heart is so pure, how much love will you have for your child? Innocent child who grew up under your care, under your love, under your mentorship, and you are the best of the best. Your love will be so immense, so deep, so profound. It will be so meaningful. And imagine that son is so obedient, so wise, so smart, great worshipper. And then Allah commands you to sacrifice him, slaughter him, literally. Literally. Yet, they are content of the command. They listen and obey. They don't question, Ya Allah, you love me so much, I love you so much. I'm the greatest creation upon the surface of the earth. You reveal to me, you talk to me, I talk to you. Now you're commanding me to sacrifice my own son, my own blood, the purest of the pure, Ismail. No. Command came, they implemented. Sacrifice. Free will to sacrifice. You have to give in order to get something greater. Sacrifice has to be there. You cannot be someone of discipline unless you sacrifice things. We cannot sacrifice little comforts. We have to begin to sacrifice. Allah will never ask us to sacrifice our sons and daughters. He did that with his Khalil, and the chapter is closed. But we have to begin to sacrifice for his sake, in order for us to be disciplined and then to utilize our free will to the max. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين نبينا وإمامنا وقائدنا وقدوتنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, he sacrificed. He sacrificed his prestige, his honor. He was called Al-Amin. He was called Sadiq. Later on, he was called Majnoon, a magician, a fortune teller. Imagine the most intellectual individual, the most principled character, the most merciful of beings, the most encompassing of beings. But he sacrificed all of that name and fame. Sacrificed it. And then he sacrificed his beloved. Allah took Khadija away. Allah took his guardian away, Abu Talib. Then Allah took his own daughters away. He had to bury them. Then Allah gave him a child at the old age, Ibrahim. Allah took him away as a child. No lineage left of Muhammad from the sons. Qasim was taken away before, Ibrahim was taken away after. Qasim was taken in Mecca, Ibrahim was taken in Medina. sacrifice, grief. They gave it. And then he was departing, he's leaving behind a young daughter, Fatima. He knew he has no other blood left from his own lineage. He's got no elder daughter to take care of Fatima. But he sacrificed. He did not ask Allah, "Oh Allah, take Fatima away before me." He was content. We have to sacrifice for Allah. We have to be content with the qada and qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our legacy. This is who we are. Our iman demands it. And our free will is there for us to reap that opportunity. Resistance. Overcoming bad habits. Sacrificing and being content. And finally, being with the crowd, being with the team, being with the jama'ah, being patient proactively with people that might not be your color, that might not be from your race, that might not be from your ethnicity, your background, your environment, your culture, your education. Look at Salman al-Farisi and look at Bilal. Look at Wahshi. Look at Safiya, the wife of Sallallahu. She was not from Muhajirin or the Ansar. Yet, they sacrificed the environment, the culture, the ethnicity. And they worked with the jama'ah, the group, the team, the community. They didn't care if they were white or black. They didn't care if they were this land or from that land. Salman sacrificed so much for the deen, for Allah, for the Messenger ﷺ, so much so that the Muhajirin and Ansar were competing to make him amongst the Muhajirin and Ansar, until ﷺ said, "Salmanu minna." Salman is from us. Salmanu minna. Do not compete with Salman. Salman is from us. You have to be patient with the Muslims. You have to engage with them. You have to be with the jama'ah, because this is the jama'ah of Allah. This is the jama'ah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to show your maximum free will, proactive patience with them, if you want to be amongst the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want to be counted therein, you have to sacrifice. You have to be patient. You have to be with teams. You have to be with the jama'ah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Doesn't matter what your background is, you will be welcomed within the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will exist until the last breath upon the surface of the earth. Do not be isolated. Do not be alone. Be with the jama'ah. Be proactively patient therein. Work together. Sacrifice your personal egos, like Salman did, like Bilal did, like Wahshi did, like Safiya did. Do this, and you'll be recognized within the community as a great individual, as a great man, as a great woman. Utilize the power of free will which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted you. Utilize it to the max. Resilient, do not give in, do not give up. Leave your bad habits, utilize your free will to the max. Whatever the bad habits is, you can leave them. Utilize the free will to the max and leave them. Sacrifice and be content. And finally, be proactively patient with the Muslim community that's out there. Be part of them. Do not isolate yourself. Do not be alone.